Given all the time and effort she put into its creation and development, I couldn't help but wonder if Amanda had suffered a brain injury that had altered her personality. Bruce, along with the divorce papers, I've left contact information on the desk in your office in case something happens to the kids. She said, getting into her car. Tell the kids I'll be in touch in a few weeks. It was a little after the 6-month point of Amanda leaving that I got a phone call from an unknown number. It was late in the day and I had just cooked a frozen pizza and popped the top on a beer when the phone buzzed. I declined the call and went back to the movie I was watching. At some point it occurred to me to look up the area code and I laughed when I learned it was the one from the San Francisco area. I figured it was probably from a telemarketer, but I found it comforting how much I didn't care one way or the other if it was Amanda trying to make contact. It was the 8-month mark when everything blew up. I got a call from Amanda's sister, correctly named Karen because she was one, informing me that Amanda had tried to contact me. I instantly thought back to the unknown call from the San Francisco area. Well, Karen, I said, I'll take your word for it, but I haven't received any call from her. And frankly, our marriage ended on really bad terms, so I don't have any desire to talk with her. Plus, according to your sister's own words, Mike Jericho is her true soulmate. If it involves the kids, whatever relationship she can rebuild with them is on her. Not only will I not help my ex-wife with anything, I really don't know if I would piss on Amanda if I saw her on fire. Karen and I only tolerated each other at the best of times, so not surprisingly she hung up without saying another word. Though, I couldn't help but ponder what might have gone wrong between Amanda and Jericho. If Amanda had run headfirst into some form of reality with her lover, she was going to be in a world of trouble for someone to save her. My former father-in-law and mother-in-law were dead and Amanda's sister and her husband were taking care of his aging parents. And even if Sally and Kevin were speaking to their mother, neither had any way for her to live with them. Oh well, I thought to myself as I took a sip of my beer, Amanda should have $65,000 to cushion any return to the real world. I did realize that I hadn't mentioned to Karen that I had sold the house and everything in it. It was a month later when the final shoe dropped. I was sitting in the office I shared with another engineer when the phone on my desk rang. Hello, this is Bruce Evans, can I help you? I said, not paying attention to the number on the screen. Not. Yes, Mr. Evans, a female said, I'm Dr. Sylvia Altman calling from Sacramento Regional Hospital and I need to inform you that your wife, Amanda Evans, is my patient. She was in a car accident a couple of weeks ago and has just regained consciousness. Her Illinois driver's license records have you listed as her next of kin. Needless to say, Dr. Altman was taken back when I chuckled. Yeah, Dr. Altman, we've been divorced for about 8 months. My ex-wife should have updated her emergency contact information. She's in a relationship with a man named Mike Jericho, he's the one you should contact. That's just it, Dr. Altman sighed. With Ms. Evans unconscious, the police ran the license plate on the car and contacted Mr. Jericho. He has disavowed any responsibility for Ms. Evans and has stated they were not in a long-term, committed relationship. Oh wow, I don't know what to tell you, doctor. As I stated, she and I are divorced and the breakup of our marriage for me was unexpected and brutal. I really don't see how I can be of help to Amanda. Not to get petty, but she burned our bridges thoroughly and the last thing she said to me was her certainty that she and Jericho were meant for each other. Yes, Dr. Altman began, Mr. Jericho has gone as far as to have his lawyer make it clear to the hospital that he wants no further contact from Ms. Evans. Dr. Altman, Amanda has money, she got $65,000 out of the divorce. I responded, now knowing where this was going. Ms. Evans says that money is gone and that she doesn't have any medical insurance. Mr. Evans, your ex-wife has repeatedly asked about you and has some idea you'll help her. I'll be on the first flight I can get, I said to the doctor, not believing the words coming out of my mouth. Do you want to speak with Ms. Evans? The doctor asked. She still has a long recovery ahead of her, but your ex-wife wants to speak with you. She said, obviously relieved that someone would come to her injured patient. No, I replied. I need to speak with my lawyer before talking to her. Dr. Altman didn't push the point and I believed she fully understood the nature of how our relationship ended. We talked for several more minutes getting some of the details about how the car wreck happened. What I began to understand was that Jericho and her were having a fight with Amanda fleeing his residence in one of his cars. My ex-wife was never a good driver, and being in control of some high-end vehicle on unfamiliar roads in bad weather explained everything to me. What Dr. Altman only alluded to was that after examining Amanda, she had evidence of physical abuse on the part of Jericho against her. After talking with my lawyer, I got a red-eye flight to Sacramento and arrived at the hospital 8 hours later after a long layover in Dallas. It was early morning when I met with Dr. Altman. I wanted to talk with her and fully explain my position before seeing Amanda. The doctor wasn't happy with what I told her, but didn't stop me from proceeding since Amanda had done nothing but ask for me since becoming conscious. I walked into Amanda's room to see her awake and sitting up. Her right arm was heavily bandaged and it was obvious she had suffered numerous cuts and lacerations. I also noticed the broken nose and black eyes, but didn't really know if that was from Jericho or the car accident. When she saw me, it was immediately clear the Jericho delusion was broken. Looking at me, she had that soft smile and twinkle in her eyes that said I was the love of her life. All I could think was, oh damn. I knew you would come save me, Amanda said before breaking down in uncontrolled sobs. I'd been such an ungrateful fool, she blurted out between howls of what could have been either shame or relief that I had arrived. Amanda's nurse showed up then and wanted to administer a sedative but was waved away several minutes later. Amanda had regained some control of her emotions. That's when she noticed I was still just standing inside her room, that I had neither walked over to her bedside nor was showing any emotion at seeing her. Please come here, Bruce, she said, starting to have an inkling I wasn't going to be her shining white knight. I know what I did was unforgivable, that I threw our life and family away for a man that began abusing me just a few weeks after I left with him. She finished, still looking for some reaction from me. Tell me everything that happened, Amanda. I said coldly, grabbing a chair near the foot of her hospital bed and taking a seat. I listened as Amanda began telling her story of how Jericho had manipulated her into believing her life had been wasted. That Jericho had used his charm to delude her into wanting to start a new and wonderful life with him. How many times did you two fuck before the day you packed up and left with him? I asked. Bruce, please, I don't want to talk about that. Amanda said quietly and looked away. Answer the question, I said in a tone of voice that must have scared her. We started having sex about a month after we began working together. She answered, obviously ashamed. When did you first get a hint that you had made a mistake? That Jericho wasn't the soulmate you said he was while sitting on our couch at home. Amanda started crying again, but answered the question. He took me on a cruise to the South Pacific just a few days after arriving at his home. A few days into the trip, he became very controlling, warning me not to embarrass him around others on the ship. He compared me to other women and told me many times that I wasn't equal to them. That he was doing me a favor by being with me. What was the deal with crashing his car? Amanda looked down for several seconds, remaining quiet before speaking. About 3 months after returning to his house, he started beating me. It was then I realized how badly I had been deluded, that I had made a huge mistake. I wanted to call you and ask if I could come home, but Mike had long since taken my cell phone. If I wanted to make a call, I had to ask to use his. Then came a day when he left his phone on a table while talking to one of his equally strange friends. I took my chance and called you. Your phone rang a few times, then went to voicemail. I was devastated and wanted to try again, but Mike walked back inside. He knew I had tried something and beat me so badly I had to be taken to another one of his friends who was a doctor. He treated me without reporting the abuse. This doctor and Mike had a huge laugh over my black eyes, and when we returned to his place, he raped me. Amanda broke down again. I had to give her credit, she was coming clean. After recovering, she continued her story. Mike left me alone in the house for several days. He said I was an embarrassment and that he didn't want to be seen with me. Since I couldn't reach you or the kids, I gathered enough courage to steal one of his cars and head east. I had this blind desire to return home where I was going to beg you to take me back. Somewhere I went off the road near Sacramento and was unconscious for several days. What about Jericho? What did he do when he found you gone? The car's registration led to him, and when informed of my condition, he didn't want anything to do with me. The car I wrecked was just written off. Just a few days before the cruise, he convinced me to transfer my money to him for safekeeping. So I guess my money went to paying off the wreck. We just looked at each other in silence for several minutes. Some small part of me wanted to comfort her, hell, that sliver of caring wanted me to grab her and take her home. But the main problem was that there was no home anymore, and more importantly, I couldn't forget nor forgive the cold indifference shown the day she left. There was no way in hell I could ever trust Amanda again. I really couldn't trust anything she had said or done during our entire marriage. "What do you want me to do about all of this, Amanda?" I finally say, wondering what she would say. Amanda started crying again, and I honestly believe they were true tears of regret and sadness. I was sure it wasn't some emotional meltdown lamenting the disastrous end to a romantic gambit. I felt bad for her because she must have felt utterly alone. "Bruce," Amanda said, gathering her courage, "I want to go home. I want to sleep in our bed, wake up the next morning beside you, and work the rest of my life to make up for what I have done to us, and especially you. Amanda, there's no easy way to say this, because what you did to us was a nightmare. But the home you and I built is gone. I sold everything to recover some of my self-respect. Your ghost was everywhere in that house. I couldn't live there anymore with everything reminding me of you. It hurt too much. I bought a small home on the other side of town. I live by myself and have come to like that way of life." Despite the roller coaster of emotions in that room, Amanda was stunned into silence. I sensed a similar level of overwhelming disbelief from her that I felt when she suddenly informed me of her affair and that she was leaving me. "Can we start again in your new place?" Amanda asked. "I can't imagine not having you in my life." She finished, leaving me amazed she could utter those words with a straight face. Despite the roller coaster of emotions in that room, Amanda was stunned into silence. I sensed a similar level of overwhelming disbelief from her that I felt when she suddenly informed me of her affair and that she was leaving me. "Can we start again in your new place?" Amanda asked. "I can't imagine not having you in my life." She finished, leaving me amazed she could utter those words with a straight face. After Amanda made her appeal to come home and start again, I looked at her with an indifference I would have never imagined possible 1 year ago. Back then I believed our lives were irrevocably intertwined, so much that I would have used the naive word soulmate to describe how I felt. But in the space of a few months she threw that all away. She even cruelly broke with our 2 kids with only a vague statement to me about contacting them later to explain. Her actions were so short-sighted, selfish and narcissistic it was impossible for me to even consider accepting her back in my life. The injury she had inflicted on me was just too grave. Our lives were definitely once intertwined. But now I only saw deadwood that needed to be cut out of my life. I searched for anything to say to her request. It was her last words to me months earlier that popped into my head. "Amanda, you made your choice and I let you go. Now's the time for you to do the same with me." I replied, feeling a sudden sense of relief. My ex-wife started to say something but must have remembered those words that I had just echoed back to her. The look on Amanda's face was one of stark terror. Her hope of rescue by me was destroyed, and now my ex-wife realized she was not only completely alone but penniless. "I'm leaving you a check for $10,000, I said, standing up to leave. "My lawyer recommended against this since you signed away any claim to the house or alimony. So consider it a gift. It's a little cash to restart your life. How you go about that is up to you. Whether or not the kids let you back into their lives is up to them." Of course, Amanda broke down into tears again, and while it was cold-blooded, I took that moment to walk out, not saying another word. I dropped off legal paperwork with the hospital saying that I, like Jericho, did not want anything more to do with the former Amanda Evans. A few hours later I caught a flight home with a completely clear conscience. On the flight home it occurred to me that even after the divorce I had let Amanda's choices restrict my own options in life. Seeing Amanda in that hospital room with her admitting the monumental mistake she had made with Jericho had restored a good chunk of my soul. Along with that was seeing Amanda's face when she realized I wasn't there to rescue her, that whatever future she had didn't include me. This new feeling of vindication was liberating but also came with a curious burden. I had been living among the pieces of our broken marriage. It was on me to sweep away the shattered glass that was all those past commitments and fond memories. It was time for me to begin a new life.